Deep in the heart of Mississippi, just beyond the interstate and off the beaten path, there's a place filled with stories. Stories of authors and musicians, of historic homes, beautiful churches, and people whose influence reached far beyond the communities where they began. This is Carroll County, where the hills of Mississippi meet the edge of the Delta, and where the past is still present around nearly every turn. So come along as we take the scenic route, explore a few of the places that make this county special, and experience a glimpse of real Mississippi. Coming from the south on Interstate 55, our journey begins in Baden. This quiet Mississippi town was named for Dr. Cowles Meade Baden, a local physician, planter, and philanthropist who provided land for the construction of the Central Railroad. That railroad helped connect Jackson with Memphis and brought new growth to the area. As the tracks neared completion in the 1850s, the center of the community shifted from the nearby settlement of Shongolo toward the railroad, and the town of Baden began to take shape. But the story of this community began even earlier. In 1835, residents established Shongolo Presbyterian Church. The historic church remains an active place of worship and a living connection to the area's earliest days. And like many churches throughout Carroll County, it has served as more than a sanctuary. It has been a gathering place for generations of families through weddings, funerals, celebrations, and Sunday services. Just a short distance away is another of Baden's most memorable places. Ask someone from town about the Baden Cemetery, and they may tell you it's one of the most beautiful cemeteries in Mississippi. A walk through its grounds quickly shows you why. Beneath the trees are elaborate memorials, statues, and markers dating to the town's earliest years. The cemetery is the final resting place of generations of local residents, including the town's namesake, Dr. Baden. And surprisingly, you'll also find one of America's earliest patriots, John Kane. Born in 1766, Kane served as a drummer boy in the Revolutionary War, settling here after the 1830 Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek. It is peaceful, beautiful, and filled with stories, an outdoor record of the people who built this community. From Baden, we leave the interstate behind and travel northwest along Highway 35 toward the town of Carrollton. This is a road best enjoyed without rushing. Open pastures give way to forests, farms, country homes, and rolling green hills. The landscape distinguishes this part of Mississippi from the flat delta land just to the west. Arriving in Carrollton, the road opens onto one of the county's most recognizable scenes, its historic Courthouse Square. The Carroll County Courthouse stands at the center, surrounded by churches, historic storefronts, local businesses, and streets that have changed remarkably little over generations. Around the square is the Carrollton Historic District, where dozens of historic structures offer visitors a remarkably intact view of the 19th and early 20th century Mississippi. This is a place made for walking. Architectural details, churches, homes, and former places of business reveal different pieces of the town's story. You want to dive deeper into the details and history? We have a walking tour app just for that. It can be found at visitcarroll.org. Boasting of the fact that Carrollton is restored and not renovated, Carrollton is one of the largest historic districts on the National Register of Historic Places in the United States. Right on the square is one of Carrollton's most important historic sites, the Carroll Museum. Inside, artifacts, photographs, clothing, tools, toys, and personal belongings offer a closer look at the people and the events that shape Carroll County. One of the most notable collections is connected to the McCain family. The museum houses personal and military memorabilia from members of the family whose roots in the area later connected Carroll County to generations of American military and political history. The museum also preserves Native American artifacts, antique farming tools, historic clothing and toys, and memorabilia from motion pictures filmed in the area. Each item offers another glimpse of how people in Carroll County lived, worked, created, and served. And Together, they form a portrait of the county across generations. The churches surrounding Carrollton are equally important to the town's character. Several congregations were established during the 1830s, not long after Carroll County itself was formed. Their buildings represent a variety of architectural traditions, and many are within walking distance of the square. Their steeples and sanctuaries are among Carrollton's most recognizable features. But these churches are more than historic structures. They remain active congregations, places where people continue to worship and gather, just as generations did before them. Beyond the square, shaded streets are lined with historic homes representing different periods and architectural styles. Each reflects the craftsmanship of its era and the dedication of the people who've worked to preserve it. Porches, columns, decorative woodwork, and carefully maintained interiors turn the town into a living architectural museum. Visitors who arrive in October during Carrollton's annual pilgrimage receive an especially rare opportunity. Selected buildings, homes, and churches are open for tours, while owners, volunteers, and local historians share stories about the buildings and the people who live there. It offers something a historical marker cannot provide: the chance to step inside these places and hear their stories from the people preserving them today. Carroll County's stories are not found only in old buildings. They're also being told in new ways. Colorful murals can be found in Carrollton, North Carrollton, and McCarley. Some celebrate local history by preserving historic advertising, while others add a new layer of creativity to familiar streets and buildings. Together, they show that preserving heritage does not mean leaving a community frozen in the past. It also means finding new ways to share its identity with the next generation. Crossing Big Sand Creek brings us from Carrollton into the town of North Carrollton. And although the two towns sit side by side, each has its own history and identity. North Carrollton developed around the railroad during the late 19th century. Originally known as Rathbone, the community grew as tracks, businesses, and a post office brought new activity to the area. At the height of its early development, North Carrollton included stores, banks, cotton gins, lumber companies, livery stables, a hotel, and an oil mill. The town also became known as a center for horse and mule trading, an important role in an era when animals powered much of the county's farming and transportation. North Carrollton's economy has changed through the years, but its connection to local businesses and community life remains. Today, it continues to serve as a gateway between Carroll County's historic towns, rural communities, and the Delta beyond. Just outside North Carrollton stands one of the county's most significant historic properties, Coatesworth. Its story begins in 1847 when Carroll County attorney and future United States Senator James Zachariah George purchased several hundred acres of farmland and a roadside inn. George enlarged the structure into the Greek Revival residence seen today and named it Coatesworth in honor of his friend, Mississippi Supreme Court Chief Justice Coatesworth Pinckney Smith. With its broad facade, towering columns, and commanding view of the surrounding land, the house is one of Carroll County's most striking landmarks. In the late 1880s, George added a freestanding hexagonal library to hold his extensive collection of law books. It remains one of the property's most distinctive features. Today, Coatesworth serves as a cultural and heritage center, hosting weddings, educational programs, festivals, artistic events, culinary gatherings, and community celebrations. Its architecture and landscape have also attracted filmmakers, with productions including The Help, The Sound and the Fury, using the property as a location. Coatesworth stands at a crossroads between the Mississippi Hills and the Delta, between the history it preserves and the new stories still being created there. Coatesworth serves as the host site for many family-friendly events throughout the year, including Cruising Coatesworth, our own local antique car show. Carroll County's influence extends well beyond its architecture. For generations, the county has produced artists, writers, and musicians whose work has carried the sound and stories of rural Mississippi far beyond these hills. There was the string band partnership of Narmore and Smith, whose music helped preserve the sound of Mississippi fiddling. There was country and rockabilly performer Mac Allen Smith. And there was acclaimed author Elizabeth Spencer, whose novels and short stories earned an international reputation while often reflecting the complexities of Mississippi and the South. But no discussion of Carroll County's cultural legacy would be complete without traveling to the small community of Avalon. It was here that Mississippi John Hurt developed the gentle voice and intricate fingerpicking style that made him one of the most distinctive musicians in American blues and folk history. St. James Church was his place of worship and part of the community in which he grew up. The nearby cemetery became his final resting place and today welcomes music lovers from around the world. The Mississippi John Hurt Foundation was established by his granddaughter, Mary Frances Hurt Wright, to preserve that legacy and create opportunities for future generations. Through youth music education, preservation work, public events, and the annual Homecoming Festival, the foundation keeps Hurt's music connected to the community that first inspired it. The historic Mississippi John Hurt Museum was destroyed by fire in 2024, but the loss of the building did not end the story. The foundation, the family, musicians, and supporters continue working to preserve the sites connected to Hurt, rebuild what was lost, and ensure that his music reaches new generations. From a quiet community in the hills of Mississippi, John Hurt's music traveled around the world. But to understand where it came from, you have to come back to Avalon. From peaceful country roads and historic town squares to grand homes, country churches, authors, and music that changed American culture, Carroll County is filled with places worth discovering. It's a county that honors its past while continuing to write its next chapter. It's a place where history is present in the buildings, the landscapes, the music, and the people who call it home. So leave the interstate for a while, take the scenic route, and experience a view of real Mississippi. We hope to see you again soon.